I'm in Tennessee. The other day I was working on a fence. The heat index was 116 degrees. And that's normal. That's what I deal with all the time. So we're going to talk about marketing a little bit. We're going to talk about what it takes to market something. And first thing you got to have, first of all, everybody in here is kind of familiar with what we're all talking about. We're talking about chestnuts and hazelnuts. And you guys know about pawpaws and persimmons, and we know about black walnuts and heart nuts, and all this stuff. And when you go out into the real world, out there where people don't know about this, they have no idea what you're talking about. They have no idea what you're talking about. You have really, really great, cool stuff, and the rest of the world doesn't know. Okay? So your job is to expose people to this really, really great, cool stuff that you have without scaring them away. Okay? So, nope, they didn't like that. Nobody knows about this stuff. Now this one over here, this is a mystery nut. I don't even know what that is. I think it's a mocker nut. But it was really cool, and it grows along a road that I drive on all the time. And I gather them up and I put it out on Facebook, and nobody can tell me what it is. It's about 97% shell. There's this little tiny bit of nut meat in there, and there's no possible way to get it out in any kind of efficient fashion. But it's a really pretty nut, so I put it on here. But these are some shagbark hickory nuts over here that I got off a couple of trees in my nursery. And these little rascals crack out in a whole house. So if y'all go out and look at Zach Elfer's nut board out there, you will see, if y'all are not into hickories, you need to think about getting into hickories, because hickories have got a great deal of potential out there for nut meats as well as oil. We have not had enough mature trees out there to really, really get into shelled nut production on hickories. We just don't have that many trees out there. And everybody says, oh, they take too long, oh, they take too long. Yeah, they take a long time. They do take longer than pecans. But they don't take forever. And I have people all the time that call me and say, well, I want to plant a nut tree. How long till I'm going to get nuts? On pecans, it's like 5 to 7 years. You go, oh, that's too long. You're going to live more than that. You should plant the trees, okay? Let's just get it in the ground, and then, well, I may move away. Well, you may, and maybe the next guy planted one, you'll get his. So we've got to look at this from a long-term point of view, and then we've got to also look at how do we present this to people in such a fashion that they don't, well, where's my picture? My picture's not there. Oh, this is terrible. There you go. So, I don't know how many of you people have ever had a product and you said, here, I've got this, I've got black walnut, and I don't like nuts. I don't like them. They're terrible. I only ate them at Thanksgiving. It was awful. Well, if this one over here is the only one you ever had, yes, it was awful. Okay? This is a friend of mine down in Mississippi, and he's got this in his store to show people the difference between the grocery store nuts and the fresh nuts. If you've never had a fresh pecan, you've never had a good pecan. Okay? That brown thing that looks like Mississippi mud over there is probably 18 months old and has been stored out of temperature for 18 months. It's rancid. It has a kind of a pecanish flavor on the front end and a really nasty back end. It's bitter, it's acrid, it's gross. Okay? That is, anybody want to guess where the largest market for pecans is in the world?
China.
No, it's not. It's the United States north of the Mississippi River. Because nobody up here eats pecans. Very, very few people eat pecans because what they get at the store is disgusting. okay? So as we go through these things, we've got, like, the pecan growers in the United States that got all this international marketing that they're doing. They're trying to tell people all over the world to eat pecans, eat pecans, eat pecans. But they're sending garbage to us, okay? They're sending really good nuts overseas. But our grocery system does not, they treat nuts like they're shelf-stable commodities, like flour and sugar and salt, okay? They don't hold them at temperature. They don't store them in refrigeration. There's a grocery store chain in Texas that this year started putting fresh pecans in their refrigerated section. They're gonna have the best nuts in America. People are gonna go down there on vacation and they're gonna buy some pecans out of the refrigerated section and they're going, oh, these are so good. And they're gonna come back up here to Massachusetts and they're gonna get them at their store, and they'll get them over here at Whole Foods, and they're gonna taste like an old sock. Okay? So we have to present our product in the best fashion possible. Nice shelled nuts, I was talking to a pecan grower in Georgia, and there's a couple of methods to selling nuts. So, there's you can run them through a cracker, and you can do this with walnuts, you can do it with hickory nuts. You run them through a cracker, and then you sell it to the consumer and let them pick the nuts out. And I said, what about this, they call it cracked and blown. It goes through a blower and gets some of the shell out, but mostly it's just nut meats, and probably 50-50 nut meats and shell. And I said, so what about marketing them that way? And he said, when you go to Walmart, you ever pick shells out of the nuts? I was like, no. He said, the consumer does not want to do that either. So when you sell a product, you've got to sell a product ready to eat, okay? We got a lot of work to do on some of these black walnuts, hickory nuts, even pecans to some degree, at processing these things on the farm and having them ready to eat. The days of sitting around the stove in the wintertime cracking nuts is kind of over. They got a stove. So they've got nothing to sit around. And if they sit around and watch TV, they get distracted and they don't crack the nuts. So, so this is kind of, we've just got to have a really good product. There's some in the shell. There is some in shell sales. When you see some, if you go down south and you go to a pecan store, you'll see big bags full of in shell pecans. And they sit there most of the winter. It looks impressive. People go in, they look at it, oh, look at that. And then they buy the shell ones. I had there's a guy down there who told me that they wanted to have a $15 minimum sale. No, it was a $20 minimum sale in their store, because they had people come in and want half a pound of nuts, and they were like, it takes us more time to bag them and fool with them than it does. So his wife, she said, let me take care of that. So she started doing 1 pound bags for $18. Nobody ever bought one bag. Nobody bought 2 or 3 or 4, but they might buy 4 different kinds. So they might buy some Elliott's, and they might buy some Niconos, and they might buy something else. So they would buy lots of different things. So you get a multiplier effect, even though you've got a smaller product, smaller unit size, and you also can charge more for that smaller unit size. A 5 pound bag is cheaper per pound than a 1 pound bag is. So trying to get this in front of people and get them to accept it in a unit size. I don't know how many people go in and buy a 10 pound bag of pecans. Some people here may buy them and bring them back home, but it's a lot. That's a lot of nuts. Don't sell poor quality. Mm-hmm. If you've got poor quality, you don't have a crop, okay? It's very tempting to have not great nuts. These over here suffered from drought. They've got shriveled ends on them. We had dry weather that year. They didn't fill properly. That's not a sellable nut. There's 17 stink bug bites on this one over here. 17 individual stink bug bites on that pecan. That pecan tastes worse than that brown one, okay? So you're gonna have to do some pest control. You're gonna have to do some disease control. You're gonna have to have a quality product. If you can't produce a quality product, you don't have a product, okay? You get one shot at a consumer, one shot. If you don't give them a quality product the first time, they're not likely to come back. It goes back to the little girl with the ugly face. I mean, it is once burned, twice shy. If they try something and it's bad, they're certainly not going to come back to you. They may try it somewhere else, but they're not going to come back to you. So you've got to impress them the very first time with a quality product. You need to have good presentation. Yeah, there we go. So these over here, they don't have any scab on them. They don't have any insect bites on them. We talked a little bit here today. People talked about weevils in the chestnuts and whatnot. They're talking about that over there. You sell somebody a pecan in the shell and a worm crawls out of it, they're gonna throw the whole bag away. They're not gonna throw one nut away. They're gonna throw the whole bag away. Because they do not understand that all of those are not infested. They think if there's one worm in there, he has polluted the whole bag, okay? There's no way to save this. It's done, it's over. They don't know how to grow things. They haven't been outside, okay? They really haven't. They don't know. I don't know. I live in the South and I talk to people about hickory nuts and they're like, you can eat those? You can eat those? Really? We used to throw them at each other. Well, no, that's not the right way to do it. So there's in-shell nuts. This is Bass Pecan. This is their retail in the fall. They've got some nice jumbo pecans. He does sell quite a few pecans in the shell. Most of them don't stay there. So something interesting about him. This is Max Drawn down at Bass Pecan in Mississippi. He was called Pecan Hill Orchards now. He bought that orchard. He had some experience in the orchard business and in agriculture. But he bought that orchard and it had a retail store, and he ran the retail store for a year or two, and he was trying to compete on price like a lot of people try to compete on price. And they had trouble getting good help. They had trouble with a lot of just normal business operation difficulties. So one year they decided, well, we're just not going to do retail anymore. We're going to shut it down. Now, it didn't get rid of the building, didn't get rid of the facilities. So he wholesaled his pecans. He lost on average $1.30 a pound for every pecan he sold wholesale. When he ran the numbers on what it cost to do his spray applications and pick them up and all that sort of stuff, he lost money, lost a lot of money, because he had like 200 acres of pecans. That's a lot of money to lose in 1 year. So that next year he's talking to his wife and he says, okay, what are we gonna do? She said, well, we're gonna open that retail back up again, but you're gonna let me set the prices. So for his jumbo halves, so these great big pecans, those big jumbo halves, he's getting $18 a pound shelled and that's in a 5-pound bag. You get less than that. Well, I think their 18 was for the single pound bags. But anyway, and he says, David, he says, I'm getting $18 a pound for pecans in a place where everybody's got a pecan tree in their yard. And I said, how do you do that? He said, they're too lazy to pick them up. You have a premium product. Everybody in here who's growing nuts is growing a premium product. It is by far better than they're getting anywhere else. You've got to present it that way, and you've got to be proud of it. You can't go in there and sit at the farmer's market. Well, I got these nuts. If you give me $1, I'll give you some. You can't be shy. You can't be, and you know, I've done farm to table produce for 27 years. I've dealt with chefs for 27 years. People say all the time, how do you put up with those people? They're so hard to deal with. I said, well, I can put up nearly anybody for 15 minutes once a week. Okay? They're not that hard to deal with. They're just people. They're in business. They're doing their thing. Chefs are a really good resource for you when you've got something that's unknown. You present a good product to them, get them excited about it, get them to talk it up. They will create demand. They're all looking for something that nobody else has. So last year at NNGA in Michigan, I got some pecan flour and pecan chips from Nash over here. And I took them home, put them on my produce list, carried them around, showed them to people. A few people looked at them. Yeah. They have to think about stuff. They rarely dive on something new first right out of the gate. So, well, this one place bought a bag, and this other place bought a bag, and then this one place started buying a couple of bags of chestnut chips every week. And I know the pastry chef, she's making them into a dessert. I said, so what are you doing with these chestnut chips? And she says, well, come in here. Let me show you. So she's taking chestnut chips. And they have another restaurant, a sister restaurant, that does smoked brisket. And she takes pecan halves and smokes them with the smoked brisket. And she mixes them with the chestnuts. And when you eat them together, it tastes like bacon. Exactly like bacon. She said, I have invented vegan bacon. She mixed that in a dessert. It was just stupid good. I mean, just stupid good. That creativity, that level of creativity is an asset to you. And you can work with those people and you can get them to come up with ways to make these products. We don't have a chestnut food culture. We're trying to build one, but we don't have one. We don't have. Has anybody heard the story of chess pie? Does anybody know what chess pie is? Okay, she knows what chess pie is. Chess pie is a southern staple. It's well, I don't even know what's in it. It's got corn syrup. Sugar and corn syrup. It's got a crust on it. But apparently, there's a story out there that the original chess pie was made with chestnut flour for the crust. That's where it originated. Now, that may or may not be true.
It's southern for just, not chest.
But they may have used it. We can pretend like they used chestnut. I did have a persimmon pie at the Kentucky Nut Growers last fall. Yeah, last fall. A persimmon pie that was made with a chestnut flour crust, and it was insanely good. It was, and it just looked kind of like a little old fruit bar sort of thing, and I wasn't really impressed with it when I went through and got my stuff, and hey, did you try the persimmon pie? I'm like, no, I didn't know what it was. Went over, got a piece of it, I gotta go back. Packaging. Make your packaging look professional. A Ziploc bag with the farm name and the price on it in Sharpie marker is not professional packaging. It's functional. It gets the product out there. Spend a little money and get a label made. Make it look like you're doing this on purpose. This is not just something that I drug out of the garage. Okay? You want to look like you're doing this on purpose. Give people ideas for how to use things. By the way, I stole all these pictures off the internet. I have no idea where they came from. Give people recipes. You're using things they don't know anything about. Give them recipes. Give them ideas. I had a walnut at that same meeting that was made just like a pecan pie. Same ingredients with a walnut topping. It was crazy good. It's crazy good. There was a gentleman, I don't know if he's in here or not. He had some walnut bars that had honey in them last night.
That's me.
That's you, okay. It was one of the best ways I ever ate a black walnut. Black walnuts can be a little bit challenging for some people. I mean, if they just pop one in their mouth for the first time and they're not ready for that, that's sometimes a little overpowering. It's a great flavor. That's another thing about, when I was talking about preparation and all that, get those walnuts picked up before that husk turns black. Don't just let them lay around for weeks. Get them up, get them off the ground, get them cleaned up good, get that thing cleaned up so that those nuts, that husk can permeate that nut and give it an even stronger flavor than it had. I've had some that were really light colored and they were really kind of had a more delicate flavor to them, and I've had some that were black as motor oil and they didn't taste very good at all. So take care of your stuff. I don't know, does anybody know about Posey pecan? Posey is an Indiana variety, and it has a reputation for turning dark really quickly. It has a super high oil content, has a great flavor. If you shake that tree and let those nuts lay on the ground overnight, they'll turn brown, just like that store nut. And the consumer will not pick that nut. Now that nut doesn't taste bad, it just turns brown. So individual varieties of things change over time. So you need to model your handling based on how an individual variety responds to post-harvest handling. Value-added products. Got pralines over here, little bourbon chocolate pies, individual pies. Let's talk a little bit for a minute about post-harvest handling. So the nuts come off the tree, they hit the ground, you get them picked up. Depending on what they are, depending on your weather, nuts do not like hot temperatures. You can't just throw them in the garage at 90 degrees and hope that they're going to still be good. You need a cooler. You need a place to get them stored at the proper temperature. In the shell, sometimes they've got a longer lifespan, but for the most part, a lot of them have got to be stored at cooler temperatures. Once they're shelled, they definitely have to be stored at a cooler temperature. The smaller the pieces, the quicker they go bad. So pecan halves got a week or two of shelf life at room temperature, but the longer they sit out, the worse they get. Pieces have about half of that. Small pieces have half of that, and flour has just about 8 hours of shelf life before it begins to have a rancid flavor. Surface area equals oxidation, oxidation equals all flavors. Okay? All these things that got oils in them, they just need to be handled carefully so that you have an optimal product. Remember, you're going to people who don't know the product. You've got to bring them the best quality product you can. I think we're done. So, I don't know if I've told you anything that was useful, but anyway, I don't even know if I told you who I am. David Hughes, Rockbridge Trees in Tennessee. I have a nursery and a produce business. And I've talked to a lot, I probably have talked to a lot of y'all in this room and have never actually met you. But I sell trees all over the country, and I've talked to a lot of very, very good growers around the country. And I try to gather that information and help other people make good decisions based on what other growers are doing.
David, I was down in Tifton, Georgia a few years ago to prepare for that conference, and I went into one of the wholesalers and stores. I said, I'd like, a good pecan. Well, how about desirable? And I didn't realize desirable was the name of the cultivar. Sometimes a good brand name can make a difference.
Mhm. It can make a difference. There are certain variety. People still ask for Stewart pecans, and I don't know, almost everything else that's come since Stewart is better than Stewart now. Stewart was the top of the line in the 20s and 30s, but a lot of better nuts have come along since then. Easier to grow, more disease resistant, and actually better quality nuts. One thing, and this is because I know so much about pecans, everybody gets hung up on size. They want these great big pecans. Well, a great big pecan tastes like a cardboard box, okay? So a nut that's that big has got the same amount of oil as a nut that's that big. A nut that's that big is like fireworks when you stick it in your mouth. It's great. It's got a super high oil content. It's got a lot of flavor. It's aromatic, all that sort of stuff. Those big nuts are starchy, and they've got a pecan flavor, but not that explosive pecan flavor. Since it looks like we need to have a shelled product, it just takes a few more minutes to crack these than it does those. And once it's cracked, the consumer doesn't care how big the nut is. They don't purchase based on size when they don't have to do the work. So one of the top nuts in the South is Elliott. Elliott is a little nut about this big, about the same size as Major or maybe Kansas up in the north. There are people in the South that when they walk into a store, they ask if you have Elliott's. If you don't have Elliott's, they turn around and walk back out. There are parts of Kentucky that if you don't have Major pecans, they will not buy a pecan from you. Because Major is the pecan that they've used for their desserts in the fall every year for their entire life. Great grandma and grandma and mom, and now I'm gonna do the same thing. I want this nut. Can I interest you in something else? No, you cannot. Okay? So, as you begin to get north into the fringes of the pecan belt, the smaller nuts are so much easier to grow, and you don't have to worry about season length. You get shorter season length. The nuts are a little smaller. Those little bitty native nuts, little bitty 120 count nuts that they have over in Missouri and Oklahoma and over that way, those should be sold at a premium price because, and they're not. They're sold as a confectioner's thing that go into the industrial stream. That's what's in your pecan sandies and all that sort of stuff that you get. Those little bitty guys look so good on top of a brownie, okay? So you take these small nuts and you market them. You've got to market them. You've got to tell people, hey, you can use this. You can put 4 of these on top of a cupcake, okay? You can make a star. You can put one in the middle and write somebody's name around the edge. You can do all kinds of things with these smaller nuts. And we're selling a food product. We're also selling a concept. We're selling an idea. We're selling an experience. It's all kinds of things. I learned in the produce business that you've got to go into the customer with a nice attitude. If you go in there grouchy, you're going to come out grouchy. They're going to just run you out. I watched the guy one time go into a place that he had some produce in his hand. He threw it on the counter and said, "Where's my money?" Not talking to the chef. We're cutting up and having a good time. The guy stops and writes him a check, hands him a check, and snatches it out of his hand, runs out. And I said, "What was that?" And he said, "Well, it's one of our farmers." And I said, "Have I been doing it wrong all this time?" He was like, "No." I said, "Am I supposed to throw it down and ask for my money?" He said, "No, you're not supposed to do that." He said, "Well, when he runs out of that, we're not asking him back." So, when you go to the market happy and excited. I've gone to towns many times when I wanted to choke everybody on the planet. And when I get out of the truck at the first place, I'm like, "Hey, I'm happy to be here today." And at the end of the day, if I'm still not happy, then I tell everybody. My wife knows how unhappy I am. But attitude, be happy about what you got. Be excited about it. Tell people, hey, I've got the best thing you've never tried. Okay? So, I guess that's it. So, thanks a bunch.